They have 11 data centers worldwide now, and they're always adding more. They recently added Sydney, Australia. All of these data centers have enterprise-grade hardware. They just launched an S3-compatible storage option recently, and it's all backed by their next-generation network. Linode delivers the performance that you expect at a price that you honestly don't. You can see for yourself today using code ATP2020 to get a $20 credit. And that'll give you access to everything they have to offer. You have native SSD storage on all their servers, this 40 gigabit network behind it all. All these servers come with root access. You can install whatever software you need. You can configure everything with their API to automate things like expansion or contraction. They have a CLI tool in Python. I use it all the time. And all this comes in starting at just $5 a month. This is great for people who just want to get started, who you want to try things out. And all their plans from, I use mostly the bigger ones, but all their plans, in my opinion, are the best value in the business. And I've been with them for almost a decade, and the entire time, they've stayed the best value in the business. Whenever new technology gets better or gets cheaper, they give you more for your money. So it's super great to be a Linode customer. I've been with them for all this time. I run all of Overcast there. I run Markets.org there. I run the live streaming server for this podcast there. Everything I run there, I'm very happy with. See for yourself, linode.com/ATP. Using promo code ATP2020 to get a $20 credit. That could be for ATP2020. Thank you so much to Linode for hosting all my stuff and sponsoring our show.
You posted some interesting things to Instagram today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get away with this.
We'll close out the crank chapter here. This will be the last thing I'm cranky about tonight.
So I look at my Instagram stories at some point in the evening, and I see that you were lamenting the fact that you couldn't debug something in Xcode, if I'm not mistaken, in the beta specifically. And then you were lamenting the fact that it required Catalina. And the next thing I know, you're doing the thing that you swore that I was not allowed to do, Dad. And you're installing Catalina on a device. I'm presuming it's your iMac Pro. Did you buy your Mac Pro before or after this travesty happened?
I haven't had time yet.
Are you going to?
I don't know. My fan noise is back. I still got to figure that out. But
oh, no.
I'm so annoyed. I've been resisting Catalina on my main iMac Pro. I've had it on my laptop because it came with it, and it's been, I've been dealing with it. It's fine. But as I said before, I didn't see any reason to upgrade to Catalina, and there only seemed to be downsides and risks, no real upsides. And, well, now I finally had to do it because I upgraded my phone to the 13.4 beta, which presumably sometime in the next few weeks will become the 13.4 release of iOS. And you can't develop for that phone with Xcode 11.3. You can only develop for it, which means I can only do like the build and run and install development builds on my phone easily from the new beta of Xcode 11.4, which requires Catalina. They do this every year, where at some point halfway through the year or so, they make the newest version of Xcode require the newest macOS. And that is what finally pushes developers who have been reluctant to install the new version of macOS to finally do it. Because while it is possible to continue doing my job without being able to instantly run development builds on my phone, it becomes much more cumbersome. And it's just, the cost of that to me is too great. So I bit the bullet and I upgraded on podcast day. Mere hours before the podcast.
Very bold maneuver.
Yes. And here I am running Catalina on my desktop finally. So I'm finally fully upgraded, reluctantly.
I've been really eyeing, both side-eyeing and excited-eyeing Catalina on account of, starting to do some SwiftUI work, and it would be so much nicer, as we discussed last episode, to be able to do that on my iMac Pro. But my two dads, that's a reference, John, have told me that I am not allowed to upgrade to Catalina, so I haven't. And here it is. Now, I am the only holdout on Mojave. Is that correct? Because, John, you have to run it on your Mac Pro, correct?
Yeah, my wife's iMac is still on Mojave. I thought about upgrading her, but I'm like, you know what? Just don't. Just, like, I don't have many Catalina problems. Don't. Just, like, I don't have many Catalina problems. Like, I had one, like, how did it manifest? I would select, I was fast user switching between people to take screenshots, and I selected a different account from the fast user switching menu, and nothing happened.
Cool.
I was trapped. I could not switch to another user. And I was like, okay, this means time to restart. Like no error message, nothing in the console, nothing like it just, you would pick something from fast user switching and it would just blink and then nothing would ever happen. And not down with especially I was about to release an app, not down with the Xcode betas, but I feel you, Marco, with like at a certain point you do have to upgrade, and I guess your time has come. And I think you picked a reasonable time. Like I don't think it'll be a disaster for you.
This is about as long as I make it every year. This actually, I think, is longer than I usually tend to make it because usually there's some new feature of the OS that I eventually just break down because I want it. And yeah, like Casey, like your Swift UI previewing thing that you want, like that's a pretty good one of those features. Like it would make sense. Like the reason I did it was because that's motivation enough for me to make the jump. For you, if you're doing a lot of Swift UI stuff, that live preview part of Swift UI is pretty nice. Yep. And it would kind of make sense that, okay, you should probably update if that's a really important thing to you. It's going to be different of like, when do you update to a new OS? And if the OS has compelling features, that threshold could be, pretty soon after release. I mean, you could even be one of those day one cowboys that, just, I don't recommend that, but, you could do it. More level-headed approaches, usually maybe wait until the 0.1 comes out. That's usually a pretty safe bet most years. But that threshold moves for various people depending on their priorities.
Stuff, and you want to have the preview, I suppose. That you have an actual reason to do it. Before you didn't have any reason, though. I mean, and you weren't telling us about the details of the app you were making. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we should quickly mention things that would perhaps require Catalina, since this is related. Swift Playgrounds is out for the Mac. So that's really exciting. I haven't tried it yet because I'm not on Catalina, but this is super cool. And generally speaking, from what I've read, it sounds like it's a pretty decent Mac app, which is exciting as well. It's not flawless, but it's pretty decent all in all. So, hey, that's a win as far as I'm concerned.
I've seen some people complaining that it is Swift Playgrounds on the Mac, like literally, Swift Playgrounds, the thing they demoed on the iPad. Hey, look at this. You can learn how to program. This is a cool little robot. You can make it hop around. Like all the stuff that you saw them demo on the iPad at WWC all those years ago. It's that on the Mac. But I think when people saw it, they were thinking, oh, it'll be like Swift Playgrounds, but all the APIs will be Mac APIs. And that's when I'm developing in Xcode and I want to try out a quick little thing. I bring up a playground, I type some stuff in it, and it works fine. But then I remembered, no, it's a thing with the robot. Yeah. What is the name of the thing in Xcode? That's called Playgrounds, but not Swift Playgrounds? What is that thing called?
It's just Playgrounds, I believe. It's a new playground. That's it.
I mean, yeah, you just do, from the file menu, file new what, and one of the things you can make is new project, new file. You can also make a new playground, and it makes a little thing where you can type in code and it runs it in real time and shows you the results on the right-hand side. Everything they demoed in a different WWDC session all those years ago. But it doesn't have a distinct name, and it's not its own application. It's just a playground file for Xcode. Anyway, this is Swift Playgrounds for the Mac. Like the responder chain is weird. The window layering is weird. I think someone was saying if you bring up a window and hit Command W, it closes the window behind the active window, which is, not right. There's many things about iOS applications that are running on the Mac through Catalyst that is not quite right. But it's better to have, this is an example of Catalyst, quote unquote shovelware, but like you wouldn't have this app at all on the Mac. So maybe the one you got is not super duper Mac-like, but it's better than not having it on the Mac. It is still vastly preferable to have a so-so Catalyst port of an app than to not have it at all, especially for an app like this, where it's like, this is not a professional app where you're trying to say this is the